Have you ever felt trapped by your own overthinking? In this video, we're going to be talking about why overthinking is keeping you stuck. But in order to do that, let me tell you how my cycle of comparing portfolios completely kept me paralyzed from taking the action that I needed to. Okay, so right here, you're looking at my overthinking loop. Okay, this is the loop that I would constantly be in when overthinking about, oh, is my portfolio great, etc. And this is essentially how it went. In the first phase, it'd start by I would plan and create a new portfolio piece to share. I'd probably look online and see, okay, what type of projects are my potential clients making? And then I'll go make something like that so they can see how they could utilize that in their business. That would, and that would probably take me a week or 2 weeks to complete this. And then I'd move on to the next phase, which is I'd post it and the work will get great feedback. And it gave me like a really good sense of achievement because it told me, okay, the work is good quality, people love it, and it looks real. And to a 3D artist, that's like the best compliment you can give us. So it made my sense of achievement go through the roof. And then immediately I'll be like, yes, okay, I can do it. And then I'll get like a sudden burst of motivation to start doing more outreach to try and get more business. But then within like the next hour of me posting that and getting all the great feedback, I'll then start looking online and then seeing all my other competitors and what they're posting because they'll be doing large scale projects with a massive team creating one render. I did start to feel like I have not done enough, even though it was just me and I was just doing one render for like a house. And I was comparing myself to these studios that have like 10 people working on a project doing large scale building. Yes, irrational, it may be, and I understand that. But in this cycle of overthinking, I would always compare my work to theirs and it'd make me feel like, oh my gosh, okay, maybe I need to do another piece to add to my portfolio. And the minute I start to think about, oh, maybe I need to do another piece of my portfolio, I'll then enter this phase, which is phase 4. And then I'd start to doubt the ability to create everything myself when in reality, there's an endless amount of projects I could do. Just think about it. How many different kitchen designs are there? How many different bedroom layouts? How many different living room? How many different house layouts are there? There's millions. Even if I had all the time in the world, I could not possibly do every single one of those pieces. And because I'll be in this overthinking loop, I'll then be like, okay, maybe I need to add more work to my portfolio. And then I'd go back from phase 4 straight back into the phase. I'll go from phase 4 straight back into phase 1 when I'm creating another piece of my portfolio. But none of this loop ever involves me reaching out to clients. After phase 2 would probably be the part of this entire cycle where I'd most likely reach out to another client. But then because it's quickly followed by phase 3, it just puts me in this never ending cycle, overthinking and constantly wanting to work on portfolio instead of doing stuff that would actually grow the business and get me in front of my potential clients. Because at the end of the day, you could do 100 renders, but you'll always feel like there's more that you can do because 100 renders do not cover every single type of project that you could face in the real world. So it's just a complete loop that I was stuck in for months. And this loop is completely brutal. I was completely stuck in it for months and I just could not find a way out of it. And it made me lose out on so many opportunities. So my question to you is, what opportunity have you lost because you've been stuck in an overthinking loop like this and you waited too long? Because the opportunity I lost was a project that went to someone else who wasn't even better than me. They were just faster at doing the outreach needed. Let me tell you what this opportunity was, right? I heard about a new gym opening that was close to my house. I heard about it probably about 4 months before they had any CGIs created of the space. So they're just promoting it on social media saying, oh, we come in with a new gym, creating this space. I knew of this gym. I even thought of signing up to this gym, which is the worst part, because I thought, oh, I haven't got a portfolio piece for gyms yet. Even though I knew I could make CGIs for the project, I'd like, oh no, I haven't got a portfolio, I haven't got the proof. They probably wouldn't go with me. I should just probably leave it alone and just stick to where I'm doing. You can already see the self-doubt creep in as I did not have any portfolio piece to show I could do the work. So I just simply didn't reach out. I just said, you know what? Yeah, I don't want to burn bridges yet. I want to just focus on getting a normal residential client and just doing a 3D CGI render of the properties instead of just branching out to gens, even though I knew I could do the work. Now, the painful part is that 4 months later, I see CGIs of the space and they did not even look that great. Like, genuinely, I think anyone starting out in doing property CGIs could probably do a better job. And I'm not trying to cast judgment. Like, I don't know what the timelines were. I don't know what the budget was for the project that they took on. But for the quality of the renders that I saw, I'm like, come on, man. Like, it wasn't great. And the main thing that it confirmed to me was that it was something they would have invested in if I just made a reach out when I first heard about them advertising that they were going to open up a new gym in the space. And it was a complete wasted and missed opportunity that if I had just made a reach out, that could have been a potential client, that could have been revenue, that could have been content for my brand, that could have been so many things. Now, this is just a quick graph to show what my emotions are when I saw this opportunity and how overthinking just ended up in me feeling the absolute worst, right? Because I saw the opportunity and I just left it in limbo as I did not have the portfolio piece. Now that obviously led to me having zero added revenue to the business, which then made me doubt I had enough work shown on my portfolio to then secure more clients. And then 4 months later, when I realized my work is better than the CGI they got created, gave me, I'm not gonna lie, it gave me a small boost in the sense of I felt like, oh my gosh, what the hell? My CGIs are way better than the ones that they got created and they paid for. So gave me confidence. But then immediately after, I felt like I lost a great opportunity due to the wrong belief around, due to having the wrong belief around outreach. And it made me feel like I lost money because at the end of the day, I actually did because I knew for a fact that I could do a better CGI job than that. Every single time I see their post of the CGIs, I'm just like, that project could have been mine. Ever since then, I was like, I'm never going to let this happen again. So I'm starting to adopt this framework of always experiment over overthinking and then let the results give you the information you need to then take the action necessary instead of just overthinking, staying in your own head and never actually reaching out to potential clients to get the success for the studio that I'm looking for. Now, this might be a little bit extreme, and I get it. Like, you just seen the number 750. I get it. It looks like a lot, but genuinely, this is the experiment I'm aiming to start running to get out of this complete loop that I found myself stuck in. Okay. And that's totally up to you. But first, I'm going to go over the experiments I'll be running daily. And then I'll go over what you could potentially do to make sure you don't get stuck in the overthinking loop and you start experimenting. For me, the first thing I'm going to try doing every single day is to do at least 30 cold calls, 20 emails per day, 100 DMs, which is probably 10 DMs every hour within 10 hours. Okay, something very simple. It should stop your account from getting flagged as spam as well. So, like, if you just spread them out, that should be very achievable within 10 hours if you just send 10 DMs every hour. And it's very manageable. And then the fourth thing will be to follow up with everyone that messages me back or everyone that I've sent messages to that hasn't responded within 48 hours, just to make sure I get pushed back up to the top of their inbox. Because at the end of the day, these guys are busy and it's more important to remind them than to just say it once and then expect them to remember you forever when they've got busy day, they got busy lives. They're not thinking about you. They're busy thinking about what they have to do for their business. Okay. Now, the reason I'm doing so many, because I picked a number that in my head, it would be impossible for me not to get a client from. And the number in my head is 1,000. At 750, I think after 2 weeks, I think it'll be absolutely impossible for me not to get a client if I reached out to 1,000 potential clients. So with these numbers, I should be able to secure a client every single 2 weeks if I keep up with these daily actions. But if you're starting out, I'll get it. This could seem extreme, but it's just because I want to reach the goals faster. And in order to do that, I need to increase the volume that I do. So if you are starting out and you want to get over this overthinking cycle, you could choose to run this experiment instead. Okay. Now you can change any of these numbers to suit a level that you can keep up to every single day. The important part is to make it every single day so it's easy for you to track and make it so it's something that you can't burn out from doing. So taking the numbers aside, what's the smallest experiment you can take to break out of your overthinking cycle? Now, I started with cold calls because it's something I never really did before. And it wasn't as bad as I first initially thought it would be. If you are lost and you want to get a client within the next month, which is 1,000, this is an easy experiment you can run. And then just follow up and track every single one of those people you talk to. You do those for 5 days in the week, and that will equal 250. Times that by 4 weeks, that should get you to 1,000 potential leads that you've contacted. And with that number of leads, you should have at least secured one appointment or sale out of 1,000 people. Now, with every experiment, you got to keep everything the same. So like when you're doing the cold calls, when you're doing the emails, when you're doing the DM scripts, all of it has to be the same until you reach a number that will give you enough data to tell you whether it's working or not. So for cold calls, I said after 30 to 100 calls, only change it after I've reached that number. So the same would be for emails. After 50 emails, but make sure with every change you make, it's you only changing one thing. Okay, just one part, one section of the script, one part in the email or in the subject line, one part in the DM. Like, don't change multiple things because it'll be harder for you to then see what actually works and what doesn't. And if you don't keep the messaging the same until you reach those numbers, you won't know how effective that script, that cold call, or that email was, which then means you won't be able to replicate in the future. So it's, again, you have to run this like an experiment. You have to track everything. You have to record all the results, make one small change, then you see which messaging got you the best results, and you hammer down on that until it doesn't work. So then you constantly swapping out what doesn't work for what does, which will then increase your chances of being successful and landing more clients in the future. And then you keep going until you get success. Because here's a little story about when I first started cold calling, I thought, oh my gosh, these guys are just going to hang up. They're going to just share on the phone. Because again, like my thought process at the time, no one likes to be cold called. And then to a degree, that might still be true. But I realized if you're providing value, especially when I locked out that opportunity, if you're providing value, it's actually a disservice if you don't let them know about your service and what you can do, because they're going to end up paying someone to do a worse job than what you would have done. And that's kind of selfish in a way because you were stuck in your own overthinking cycle. You never stepped out of it to go and help someone else that would have needed your help. And when I was cold calling, I realized that no, these are just normal people. They're there to help you as long as you give them the information they need to point you in the right direction. Not only that, some of the cold calls give you information on some of the struggles that you might have not have thought about that would limit them from potentially buying your services. I was talking to someone and what he told me about why he didn't want to use 3D renders was a content idea. And it addressed a pain point that you can't find on Google. Well, you could find it on Google, but you'd have to type in the specific thing to find it on Google. You know what I mean? It's all the information that you wouldn't find immediately as to why people would say no to your services. And that information is what you could add to your copy. It's information you could add to your branding, to your content, all of that. But if I never run the experiment of doing the cold calls and I stayed in the overthinking loop, I would never have found out that information because the cost of not experimenting will lead you to the same results and the same feeling of being stuck. Okay, so this is a quick graph of what happens when you stop running experiments after you've been successful and you think, oh no, this is the best way to do it. I'm not going to change. I'm not going to run any new experiments. Now that we are successful, we're just going to keep doing it the same way that works. Eventually, over time, this is bound to happen to you. Okay, because at first you could feel like, oh, this is great, but you feel stagnant and you start seeing other people around you. They start to grow a lot faster and you feel like your growth is slowing down, but you're not sure and you still feel like something's missing. And then something in the industry takes a hit. Okay, a random new thing comes out or people in your space are utilizing new strategies to get more business and drive their business growth faster than you are, because, you know, you don't want to run experiments anymore. You want to keep everything the same because it worked yesterday. It should work today. It worked last year, so it should work today, right? And some good news happens and the industry recovers. And due to your brand that you've been in the space for 10, 15 years, 20 years, whatever, everything looks like it's back to normal, or it's starting to improve and feel better than it was back here. But because, again, you never ran experiments, you kept it the same, the people that were utilizing new techniques here have now finally figured out how to make it work. And all your competitors wake up, and the experiments they've been running this whole time takes your market share, leaving you to fight to survive in a market you once thrived in, because now they understand what now works, whereas you still stuck doing what used to work, and you don't know what new things you need to implement to still compete in this space. And that's because you did not take any experiment whatsoever. You relied on past success to drive future success forever without ever realizing that the world is forever changing. What used to work yesterday might not work today. But ultimately, like every single company that you know that's gone bankrupt, the reason they ended up there is because they weren't willing to change, and they weren't running any experiments to learn new ways that they could be successful. So the question is, do you want to be like them, or do you want to always be running experiments in your business or in your career to make sure that you are always in the process of growing instead of dying due to the lack of experiments you're running? So the key thing you need to do to make sure you stay successful is to always keep running experiments, even after you've won a lot, because something new will always come up. And if you haven't run experiments to see what that new thing does or how it works or how you can use it, you're always going to be vulnerable to change. And one thing about life is it's always changing. So you're going to have to run these experiments to make sure you're on top of your game. Now, the best way to make sure you're always running experiments is to always stay curious, okay? Now, unlike the first cycle of overthinking, this cycle will make sure that you always are growing and you're always adapting and always implementing new things, and therefore always becoming more and more successful. So you stay in this curiosity loop of seeing what works for others, trying to implement it for yourself, doing enough volume until you can make it successful. And then you finally achieve success with the new thing. So then you can add something new. And this is the best way you can start conquering yourself, because overthinking is the worst state to be in, because you constantly, a lot of the time, not taking action. And that always leads to a negative spiral. And running daily and weekly experiments is the best way, I think, you can completely get over this whole overthinking loop that you're stuck in. Because we both know, how would you feel once you can break through your overthinking cycle? Because I guarantee, even you know yourself, if you could get over overthinking, you'll feel like, why didn't you do it sooner? And you'll notice as well when you're running these experiments, everything in your old self will be telling you, oh my gosh, don't do it. Don't do that. It'll give you every excuse under the book not run these new experiments, because it knows if you become the person that can make that new thing work, it dies. And because it knows you, it will give you every reason that makes perfect sense to distract you from doing it. You have to notice how it makes you feel, because everything in you is going to be fighting against it. For example, if you said you want to do cold calls, right? When the time comes for you to do the cold calls, it'll tell you, oh, you know what? Maybe instead of doing the cold calls, we need to fix the email list. We need to fix our opt-ins. We need to do a VSL. We need to do this. We need to do that. All of that logically makes sense. That's the worst thing about it. And it will pull on that to make sure you don't do the actions necessary to become the person that you want to be. Don't change it. Don't say, oh, you know what? I could do it tomorrow. I'll just do double tomorrow. That's the old version of you winning. Anyway, that's today's video on why overthinking keeps you stuck. So you need to go out there, run experiments, get out of this overthinking loop, stay curious, and track all the results. Make it one tweak at a time and do enough volume until you get success. Anyways, bye guys.